Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost, and this is Friday, May 2nd, and it's a TRU Community Gathering. For those of you in YouTube or out in podcasts somewhere who don't know us and just randomly found us, we're Theater Resources Unlimited. Theater Resources Unlimited is a not-for-profit service organization for theater, mostly, although we kind of expand a little bit beyond that. And I originally founded this as a way of helping producers, which 34 years ago when I founded it seemed like a weird thing to be doing. Everybody laughed. Why do you have to help producers? Ah! So it's like, just for the record, producers actually are very hardworking people, and in some ways, are the heart. They're the soul of our business, and they do need help. Making theater happen in New York and anywhere is extremely difficult. So that's a nutshell about TRU, and this community gathering that you're at right now. Yes, you are. You're at a community gathering out there. We put this together in April 17th, 2020, as a response to COVID, because we had no other way of communicating and being with each other and feeling like a community during COVID shutdown. And this is 261st consecutive week since April 17th. I've been doing these every week, even though we're out of shutdown and even though quarantine and COVID and all that are not necessarily top of mind for us. I discovered that this was a useful program for people. Just the idea of getting together on Fridays seems to be still of interest, even out of quarantine. Um, so we've talked about all sorts of things over the years. One of the things that happened during shutdown is that I was forced to open a Zoom room. This is Zoom. Hello, this is the Zoom room. And I was forced to actually acknowledge that there was something in the universe called virtual. And we started using virtual more and more. And I discovered that there were lots of very interesting things that you can do with virtual presentations. A lot of people during COVID just hated seeing things virtually presented because they all crave live theater. But we learned a lot over let's like 5 years now. We've learned a lot over 5 years, and I'm a big proponent of encouraging people to accept virtual and film as part of their toolbox, even for the theater. I'm very interested in hybrid production, basically where you find a melding of theater works and film. And there's nobody who can talk more about this more eloquently than the people I have coming in today. I want you to meet a couple of friends of mine. I'm going to start with the former board chair of Theater Resources Unlimited, Tom Polum, who left us to create a company called Streaming Musicals. He left us. Oh no! But here he comes. He's back. Yay, Tom! So give us a hi. Just give us a couple sentence pricey.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tom Polum. Together with Stacia Fernandez, we formed Streaming Musicals back in 2017 and have done, I think, 13 or 14 features and many one-off readings and things like that, along a lot of them with Tyra Milliron, who we met in 2019, right before the pandemic. And we did Mary Harry together, and then Pride and Prejudice, and then Stella Scrooge in Total Isolation, and lots of things we've done over the last years. So nice to be here, everybody.
Notice how cleverly I brought on the people as you mentioned their names. So, Stacia, give us a little background on you.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you. Tom said what our company is, and I am an actor and a writer as well. And Tom is a writer as well, which sort of spurred our relationship. Tom directed me in a play about 25 years ago. So we've been close friends ever since. And we really started this to make sure that it was a little easier to traverse the road to the stage. That's why we started Streaming Musicals. And we have a loyal group of people who follow us. Our videos get about, I don't know, we just tallied the number for our shows on Prime the other day and found out that we've had over 1,270,000 people watch our shows. which is wonderful. It
That
doesn't
sounds pretty good.
It's pretty good. It doesn't always come up to the dollar amount that you would like it to, because streaming has a component of the finances that we probably will talk about. But it's great. We're thrilled, and we're open for business.
Okay. And I want to say I actually I took a look at your bio. You have major credits as an actress, Stacia. You were like major.
I'm still at it. I mean, I don't know, but my husband and I, between us, we have 10 Broadway shows and as some TV and film, and always looking to do more of that. I really enjoy being on camera. It's my last wish as an actor, is to be a sidekick in a sitcom. Tyler, let's go.
Okay.
So
All right.
yes, I am also an actor.
And Tyler.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tyler Milliron. I have a production company that I started in 2015 called Milliron Studios. I was also a performer, and I worked in, just several different aspects of performance. And for me, I started the company for a very similar reason that Tom and Stacia began streaming musicals, is just to help combat how damn difficult it is to actually do anything in the entertainment business, and just to make sure that if somebody has a great idea, they can move it forward.
So, before I bring on and introduce the whole concept and idea of America Tropical with our three writers, let's talk a little bit about streaming, and let's talk a little bit about the technical aspects of it, so that people can get a little bit of an education today. Let's start with, well, let's do some. I think what's it called? Wikipedia calls it disambiguation. You're trying to like pull out the threads here. So I'm going to actually come on and join you. So let's see. So you Tyler, have the studio. So let's try to pull the threads out and let people understand, like, thread by thread, what we're dealing with here. You have the studio, so you offer the possibility of doing filming things in your studio. Tom and Stacia have the streaming platform, and that basically started by you acquiring product to put on your platform and to stream. So let's go back to the platform. Tell us a little bit about streaming musicals, and why you think people would benefit from actually shopping your platform and finding things to watch.
Well, I think the top level down is we started really back in 2017 because we had gone to all of the stage unions, Equity, AFM, 802, USA, SDC, because we were trying to create a new contract for shows to be captured on film that aren't production contract Broadway, because that's the only existing contract that has ability to film something where all the deals are already set. So Stacia and I spent almost a year talking with all the unions, all of them, about this possibility of how to do this and how to create a contract. Because right now, every time you want to film something that's an equity production, it has to be individually negotiated with the union. And that means all of the unions, AFM, 802, USA, SDC, AEA. And so we thought, let's make a streamlined way of doing this. Let's create one contract that makes sense for everybody. And we actually got Equity to agree, and we got AFM and 802 to agree, and we got USA leaning in the direction of agreeing, but then SDC shot it down because they already have in the SDC rule books for New York especially, and for all the rule books of Lorton, every particular equity contract, provisions for capturing already. And it made it impossible and too expensive to do because, for example, in New York, you have to pay the director 2 times his SDC salary. And if it's an off-Broadway show, you're looking at $34,000 to $50,000 just for the director alone. So it makes it impossible to capture. So, after that year's worth of work fell apart, we decided, hey, let's just look at SAG, because maybe we can film these things under SAG. And so our goal was to be able to capture something. And our first thing that we captured ourselves was Emma, which was written by Paul Gordon, a musical based on the Jane Austen, of course. And it was sort of our test case scenario because we filmed it in a soundstage, on a stage, actually, the West Side Theater downstairs in a black box, basically, with some light costumes and sets and things. And then we filmed that, and then we released it on our platform, streamingmusicals.com, and just to try to see what kind of traction we would get with it. And we got people to watch it, and we got people to buy it. And this, of course, was early on in the idea of streaming, and but there weren't that many streaming channels like there are now. There's hundreds of streaming channels. I think there were like 3 or 4 back then. And so we released it, and then we released it on Amazon, and it went onto Amazon. And we got a call from MTI, who saw it, Musical Theater International, and said, "Hey, this is really interesting. We've never acquired anything in this way before." And so, but they did. They purchased the stage rights for Emma, and Emma has had many productions since. A big one at the Utah Shakespeare Festival last year that returned a lot of money. And so it is doing really, really well in licensing, and we're just about to sell them Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice are both going through MTI as well. We were able to replicate that, again, process with Estella Scrooge, and we were able to replicate that process with our film 1665. So we've had 6 successful sales of properties. So something that was made to be for the stage. We did it on film. MTI took interest in and purchased those rights to then do the live stage licensing. So whereas it costs, to do a musical in New York now can cost, an off-Broadway musical can be multi-million dollars, you can make a film for a fraction of that cost and have the same outcome. So that's sort of what our production arm of streaming musicals turned into. And then quickly,
well, let me ask you: were you working with Tyler's studios from the start, or
no? We started working with Tyler in 2019 on our third property. So we did Emma, and we did No One Called Ahead with different people. But when we worked with Tyler, it was such a great partnership, and he's so brilliant at what he does that we were like, well, we're just going to work with Tyler all the time because it's great.
Well, let's pull on that thread for a second. Tyler. Tell us what it is that you do, so that people there's a lot to unravel here, because it's a very big topic with a lot of nuance to it. Tyler, what is your function? If somebody decides they want to film their show, what is it that you do for them?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for the kind compliments there, Tom and Stacia. This is as a production company, I work with all of the creatives, and I try to generate an experience that feels comfortable to them. Like, really, my first primary function is to help artists coming from disparate directions understand what they need to understand about film production in order to move their project across the line. The way that we facilitate that is operating camera, often crewing out the entire process, depending on how large it scales. We've been developing this studio, for instance, to be able to capture green screen, multicam. We have an ISO booth. We've gotten to the point where we can now do like full-blown orchestral recordings of things. So we basically facilitate all of the production part of it. And then on the back end, I'm frequently the post-production supervisor and editor, and I do all the VFX.
Well, let me ask it in a slightly different way.
Sure.
If I'm a writer and I want to have the opportunity to film my show, what staffing do I have to bring to you, and how much do you provide?
We provide anything that you don't. And that is through the auspices of Tom and Stacia and their extensive Rolodex in the entertainment business. And that has even included, as you mentioned, Stacia has some incredible credits, and she has a lot of friends from the Broadway scene. So she's been able to make some cool phone calls. Tom, with his extensive producing and directing background, has been able to facilitate kind of all of the theatrical conduit that helps move these pieces forward. And then it's my job to be the monkey with the camera.
Okay, so I think you still assume that we know more than we do. Let's go to this. Job descriptions for doing something like filming your show. You need a director of photography.
Yep,
You need
that's usually me.
and you need somebody for post-production editing, although you can actually do on the spot editing as well, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a few of the different variations of what people can do.
Sure. Um, yeah, I'm trying to be reductive because there are a million branches of what we built here because we have so many people coming in with so many different ideas and we have to facilitate them. But I do operate as a director of photography, which means that that can go from anything like sitting down with the director and mapping out every single shot or getting on stage and figuring that out. That goes across that bandwidth. When we did Estella
Okay,
Scrooge,
okay,
which was a,
I want to underline that because that's really important.
of course.
One of the differences between everybody in the room and out there, one of the differences between film and theater is that in theater you have a set and people walk onto the set and they're there. It's there. With filming, you have to do a shot list, and people are not used to doing shot lists. That means you have to break down your show visual by visual, and you have to think in a different way. This is one of the big differences, and one of the things that's difficult for some theater writers to think in such specific visual terms that you know what your shots are going to look like. Now, you as the writer don't necessarily have to do that, but you do need a director of photography or a director who actually can break down the shots. Am I right so far?
Yeah.
As Rachel Maddow would say, am I getting this right or am I twisting anything in the wrong way?
It does exist on a gradient. There are times where we're working on projects that have very short timelines that require, and one of the major value adds that we create here is we do a lot of multicam work. Uh, this studio alone has 11 cameras that are all designed to facilitate multiple shots at the same time. And even when we've done not like filming a stage production, but when we did the movie 1660 Vine, which is a traditional, feature film, I had as many as 7 cameras rolling on set at a time to ensure that that coverage was done. So yes, when people come in with like clear ideas, that's awesome. But it is, as you suggested, it kind of falls on the director of photography to support the rest of that, and um, it is my job to ensure that we don't get to the end and they say none of these shots are what I was looking for. So that comes from the relationship with the writers. It comes with the relationship with the directors. If we don't have time to plot every shot, we endeavor to learn what you like and what you don't like to make sure that we can get as close as we can with the time and the resources that we have.
Stacia, let me move to you because I like to hear everybody. What is your how do you fit into the production and the what you offer us writers out here? You're part of excuse me, I'm losing my voice. You're part of the Tom Polum streaming musicals team.
Yes.
But do you do anything specific? I don't know the answer to this. Do you do anything specific?
Well, I go from producing to helping rewrite if that's necessary, to Tom and I have written interstitial material for people, help people organize what they actually want to shoot of their production, whether it's a teaser or the full version. So we're kind of coaches in that way. I have ordered lunch for 20. Called me on our first smaller projects. We called me Lunch Lady Doris because I ended up being all the crafty on set too. Some of that just comes from being a theater person because there's a lot of film companies that would not dive in and do that, but we sort of have a can-do spirit, really. And Tom and I do all the contracting unless it's for something that has a long tail, and then we would use an attorney to help with that. But for just shooting your own project, we do the contracting. We keep we're kind of like the line producers of a film, which keeps track of the entire budget. And then we're kind of like the A2 for Tyler in a way, because on smaller projects, he needs somebody to keep the shot list going in order on time. So we do that as well. So just everything. It depends on the budget,
Yeah.
honestly,
Mhm.
because we prefer to hire a scriptie and we prefer to hire an A2 and a lunch lady Doris one, but you know, we've managed to do things at all budget levels and make it work between Tom, Tyler's crew, and me.
Well, that's amazing. That sounds amazing. So let me see. Michael Simon Hall, did you want to ask a question? I know that you have your Simpson hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I guess this is just to help you because I'm fortunately or not, I've done a lot of film and TV myself, and I had to make, I mean, as a performer and as a writer, and some of the writers are concerned now, and I see it in the chat about writers feeling like they have to create their own shot list, and that's not, and like you said, Bob, like if you're not familiar, it's a lot of jargon and a lot of things to just learn, but I
Well,
think what
I'm confused because I actually said it's not necessarily the writer's job. It's the director of photography.
Right, it's a director of photography and also, but he said their company will they can do coverage where they can use multiple cameras and then you can edit after the fact, right? That's one of the options that they offer, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Oh, you know
So
the other person that I want you to I can't remember the name of it. Who's the person that when because they have you have an 8 camera. We didn't say this. You have a multi-camera setup. You have as many as 8 cameras that people can be using. And one of the things I wanted to say to the room is you don't get a whole lot out of shooting a show from with one camera, with just having people on the stage and have the camera plop and facing the stage. That doesn't normally have much. It's not dynamic and it doesn't really feel like anything much when it's viewed. So you have up to 8 cameras. You've used 7 for us for one show for 1920. You used 3 or 4 for Rolling with the Punches, and so basically it depends on what the needs are of the show. I assume.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's one person on stage doing a monologue, having 8 dynamic angles of them is going to feel like a confusing episode of 24, and might not necessarily suit where you're aiming. So we certainly attenuate. We for all of this, Stacia, Tom, and myself, we really are. We're still trying to represent theater. We're still trying to represent the writing. We're trying to, and one of the wonderful things about what the streaming musicals pipeline does, because I know everybody's here because they're musical theater writers and they're theater writers. Expansive, not limiting, but they can do many things. We don't want our cameras to get in the way of telling your story. We want to support it, and if that is better done with 3 cameras instead of 8, that is the choice that we make.
But
Yeah.
you're there to advise.
Yeah, it's
We're there
really
to advise, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's project specific, really, because if it's a two-hander, like when we did 1920, the two-hander really looked well with the 7 camera live setup because you could get so many interesting angles during those monologues. You could have direct address to one particular camera, things like that. So that one made a lot of sense. We also did some things for Kate Camerata with her Create Theater, where we would use only 2 cameras or 3 cameras because the project didn't really need anything more than that. So it's really very project specific. And the other thing about the writer being involved is, typically in film, the writer is not even allowed in the room. They're like, go away, writer. We're going to work on your piece. Here, it's more like theater where the writer's involved in the process of bringing that piece to life through filmed development, as we'd like to call it. And some pieces are just you bring your piece in, it's rehearsed, you do it in one day, we film it. Some pieces you rehearse over 4 or 5 days, and you film over 1 or 2 days. And then the features, of course, are filmed over a period of a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks usually. So it's what the project needs, where it is in its development, and what you want to do with it.
And I just want to add too that Tyler's studio is amazing and multifaceted, as he said. And we also moved the circus. We've been filming things for Open Jar, and taking Tyler and the crew to Open Jar, and we filmed the Golden Cage in Black Box Theater on Theater Row. So it doesn't have to be in Tyler's studio, although his studio is pretty dang awesome.
And the word I was trying to remember before is explain what a switcher is. I've got the right word.
Yeah. So the ATEM switcher is a product by Blackmagic Design, and it is effectively what that does is it condenses all of your camera feeds. So if I've got multiple cameras, they all go into this switcher, and effectively we can do what will feel like live editing. So we can switch between the cameras as the performance is happening. This is what we do when we're doing live streams. The studio is located in Midtown. We're at 38th Street between 5th and 6th. And we have, so we do, in order to facilitate live streams that are multicam, we also do use the switcher sort of as a on-the-fly pre-edit. Our switcher it's a wonderful product that can also generate NLE timelines. So effectively, it's building an editable timeline that we can go in and refine afterwards, which really helps expedite the process, especially if there's no vis effects involved, even if there is.
For one more round of definitions, explain the difference between live stream, live broadcast, and on demand. And am I missing any other possible versions of how people can create their work?
Mm-hmm. Tom, do you want to do that one?
Yeah. Live stream is basically you take the camera feed using the ATEM switcher and you feed that live out into the world, either YouTube or Facebook or Vimeo or whatever platform you want to use. And then people watch the event at, like, for example, 8 p.m. on a Friday night, you decide to premiere this thing, you promote it, everybody shows up at one time, you show it, that's it. It can either then remain on the platform or it can be taken down. It just depends on what you want to do. So that's a live stream. Then often you can tape something in advance, edit it and get it the way that you want, and then release that at a specified time on your platform. That's like that's a broadcast of a previous, if you tape something. If you watch Stephen Colbert and they say live on tape, it's basically filmed in the afternoon, but it's premiered at 11:30 at night. And then, so that's basically the two differences between the live actual play and the broadcast of a previous recording.
And the on demand I add as a third, only because basically you've recorded something, what you've done it live or live broadcast, you live stream or live broadcast, and then you offer it on an ongoing basis on demand. It's basically
and that's
it's a filmed project.
Yeah, it's either a project that you sell for a purchase price for somebody to watch or buy, or it's on a platform where it's available for free with advertised support behind it, and then people can watch it whenever they want, and it's up to you, the owners of the property, how long you want to keep it up and available to be able to watch.
Okay, I'm going to bring on the writers, and then I'm going to bring you guys back in a second. But I'm going to start. Let's see. I'll do ladies first. So, Gina, you're going to replace the pin, and then Jan, add pin, and Joel. So I've got our team, our América Tropical team. In case you didn't know it, it's in his background. So we've got our writers and our composer for América Tropical, which was in the True Voices music series this year in early February. And now we're getting ready to, with the help of streaming musicals, we're offering it. We're doing a premiere showing. It's not live. We're doing a premiere showing on Sunday, 2 days from today, and then it's going to be available on demand. So, guys, where to start with you? My first question to you guys is, how much of a learning curve did you have to go through to prepare your show, which was conceived for stage, to prepare it to be filmed, and what was gained, what was lost, what were your feelings about the process? Gina,
Joel,
you can start.
You want me to take that?
Yeah, ladies first.
Well, I felt that we were very lucky to have Joel on our team. I mean, he's the main writer, I'm the secondary writer, because he spent 30 years of his career or more as a producer, director, and understands the technical aspect of sitting in a booth with a switcher and the cameras. So when it came to post-production, after we did the live stream, Joel was able to go through the original live stream and mark out with the script what kind of shots he wanted, where he wanted a close-up, where he wanted a two-shot or whatever. And thankfully, Tyler his studio is fantastic. And the fact that he has all of those cameras operating, he had so many shots available to us. So the end product came out. We were really impressed with the end product, Joel and
Okay,
I.
so Joel,
Yeah.
since you have a background as producer and director, how about for you? What was the learning curve for you? I'm not hearing much of a learning curve, but I'm hearing at least.
Wait. I'm sorry. May I say something about the learning curve? To me, I learned a tremendous amount. Um, from dealing with, because I have never sat back as a writer watching a production that we've written. I've only written with Joel. So this is my second project with Joel. I'm a professional actor and I've always been on the other side. So I didn't know, I just have never experienced um, interacting with a director in the way that I had to interact with a director as a writer, and the same thing with the producer. It was a totally different world for me, and I learned a tremendous amount. I'm thankful as an actor that I had been on many sets where, I mean, this wasn't supposed to be, but where I've been on many sets where the producer or the writer came straight to me rather than the director and tried to direct me directly.
No,
Um,
we
and
don't do that.
yeah, would
No, we don't do that.
override the director. And so, of course, that confuses the actor because you don't want to, you want to have a good relationship with your producer and your writer, but you also need to listen to your director. So because of that, I understood whenever there was any question or suggestion about the acting, um, Joel and I mean, Joel already knew this, but for me, I always went through Jason, our director. I never spoke directly to the actor unless Jason asked us to. Unless Jason said, Gina, what do you think? And but always I went through it, and I learned so much from that.
But
Um,
but that's not different from theater. We know those are the rules in theater as well as film. I mean, basically, you want the director to be the person that communicates to the actor.
exactly.
The thing that the TRU has kind of been learning through the process of doing TRU speak, not just doing the filmed versions of these of musicals and the other things that we're doing. The collaborative process is a little bit more necessary and a little bit more sensitive in some ways, I think, when you're taking somebody's stage work and trying to find a way of presenting it effectively in film. So can one of you talk about that a little bit? Without my putting words into your mouth?
I
I
can
think
say a little bit. I think Joel's got more to say, but I'll just say this one aspect of it. Being the three of us living in Los Angeles, it was a challenge because all the prep work that had to be done, we were very much dependent on Jamila Ponton-Bragg, our producer, and our director, Jason Aguirre, to go and see Milliron Studios ahead of time and check it out and meet their team, and then come back and report to us, and here's what it's gonna entail and all of that. So when we flew out to New York, we were just very much dependent on what they kind of had put together for us. So, but Joel will have a lot more to say because he did much of the post-production interaction.
Yeah, because and we can use this as a way to transfer into the whole process that you went through also in post-production to create create a product for on demand. So in case I've confused anybody, basically they took a play, a musical that was conceived and written for a stage. They found a way to adapt and collaborate with people that knew more than we know about film, and they had their show reconceived in some ways for a filmed version of it, and then we made the decision that we're going to offer it on demand. So you decided you wanted to do post-production work on it so that it would be an even better, smoother product for on-demand presentation. So, Joel, other than what I just said, what can you add to that?
Well, I just think it's if you don't have a background in multi-camera or even single camera, I just think it's important for writers to understand that when you go into a facility that has a multi-camera switcher and you come out with a live cut, a line cut from that, that is if you're streaming it live, then that's your product. But you have an opportunity in a facility like Milliron Studios and with streaming musicals to refine it, as you mentioned before, a little bit earlier. And that's a huge safety valve for the writer, for the creatives in it, and that if something isn't what you want it to be on a line cut, you can go back and tweak it and make it work. And so we were blessed to have that ability with streaming musicals to be able to do that. And I think that's critical. It's absolutely critical to be able to go back and make some fixes to a line cut that you feel is needed. So
I actually skipped a whole definition. I skipped a whole thing for a lot of people who don't know about the show, which is that this was a filmed reading of the show. This when we're talking about actually filming, like for True Speak, we're going to film plays, but we're going to film them as films. We're going to make them as films. There are limitations in what you can do in terms of a reading because people are on script. But at the same time, you need to make it watchable on film. You need to make some adjustments. Can you tell us off the top of your head, all three of you, anything that you remember that had to be adjusted from your vision for stage in order for it to be understandable in the filmed version?
Sure, I'll speak to that unless somebody else wants to speak to it. We had a cast of 10. And so Tyler set up the I think some of the if my memory serves me correct, some of the cameras were on tripods, some of them were hung, maybe. I can't remember, Tyler. And so I think we had 4 or 5 cameras going at the same time. And sometimes when there's a cast of 10, your switcher, your TD, technical director, may be on a certain angle, and then somebody else says a line or has a little, during a song, has a little solo, whatever, and it's not quite what you want it to be. The angles aren't there. So there was just some of those, okay, we want to give actor A or actor B, they have a little, dialogue back and forth, and then actor C pops in and he or she was off camera, so we would have to do those types of fixes to just make sure that the viewer was seeing what we needed them to see.
Yeah, I want to interject because that was actually rather stressful in the control room side of it, because we were all seeing the plays, seeing it for the first time in the control room. We had just a brief run through before, but so I was on script, so I was actually calling, and we had the numbers for each of the seats. So I was like a half a page ahead of where everybody else was actually in the show, going, okay, we're going to seats 4 and 5 and 6. Okay, now we're going to 7 and 8, 9, and I was 30 seconds ahead of everybody else, saying, prepping over the headsets what camera was coming up so we'd be prepared for it, who's going to be in the next scene. And so that was I had a nice martini after that was over.
Especially if the scene is actor 4, 5, and 6, but there's one little step out line of actor 1 that is not in that.
Right. And so that's why the joy of live television basically is things are going to go awry like that. But then, as Joel points out, you can then go back and have that all in, because the beauty of the ATEM switching system is all the cameras are being recorded all the time. So when you go back, that shot is actually on film. It's just what went out at the live moment was what happened, whatever I was telling the camera people to focus on for that particular moment. And I would make mistakes too. And I'd be like, no, I meant 1, not 9. So
Yeah, I would just add to that those individual cameras, I've always called them ISOs, but those individual camera recordings live after the line cut and live on in post where you can access. Those are assets that belong to the project as a whole that you can rely upon or jump back to make those fixes. And sometimes that's not in the front of everybody's mind. If you have that kind of background, you're kind of cognizant of that. But if you don't, and you're really just primarily a theater person, you need to know that those assets live, especially when you go to a facility like Milliron and with streaming musicals, you're going to have that protection, and that's critical.
Janelle, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I was going to say it was so fascinating to witness this because, my initial background in production is actually television production, live television production. So to sort of, I purposely placed myself close to the control room so I could watch that part of the process, as well as simultaneously watching the actors as well. And so to live in all of those worlds at the same time for a producer, oh my gosh, it was so stimulating and also too, Tom, I'm remembering now that we were in the finalist selection committee together talking about the vision for America Tropical and bringing this experience to the table for them. So it's a very, very, very full circle experience to witness, and as a producer to have these assets of envisioning, a theatrical piece in this way. So it's just wonderful, and I'm sure RK probably agrees because he was on the panel afterwards too. I think he sat more in the audience, but I was just so fascinated by hearing it called as well as watching it, and then now to see it on demand on the other end of it, all these different incarnations. It's just fascinating.
Just out of curiosity, guys, are we going to, well, assuming we have an amazing memory, are we going to see America Tropical slightly different than what we saw it when in February?
You're going to see the most perfected version of that reading, as if we had done it 7 times and got every single shot that we could possibly get, and the camera pointing in the right direction at the right time with the right sound.
And just for everybody's edification, how long a process was this post-production?
About a month.
About a month?
Back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
About
And
okay.
it was 2 back and forths. And I will say, you guys were just so accommodating and lovely and patient and agreeable and,
Thank you.
responsive and all of that. It was really nice, really a positive experience for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's the only thing we really care about. We want to
Yeah.
make sure that if you're going to put in all this effort, that should be the takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I just to add a little bit to the color of this story. It was a thrilling experience. It was definitely sort of at capacity as far as like the layout of the studio for a number of actors, and we had to get a little creative in the way that we were laying it out. And the big thing that we have worked out with this multicam thing, and as everybody's saying, the ability to do post-production is sort of essential, because the way that these things are budgeted and built is to add the most amount of value that we possibly can with the least amount of resources, primarily that being time, but time being money. We don't have a big tech rehearsal like you normally would for a multicam show, where we're bringing in a bunch of actors for a week to rehearse and make sure they hit their marks. We're doing it live and we're moving fast. And that is one of the reasons that as I was developing the studio alongside Tom and Stacia, we really started paying attention to things like ISO recording to make sure that, if we can't do our tech week in pre, we're going to do our tech week in post. And it's always lovely to be able to go back and polish things up and make sure that mixes are as good as we can make them, and elevate it despite it's a pretty wild thing we're all doing nowadays. You get very little time to express something that you've been spending years writing, and it all has to go through this finite moment in time. And if the stars don't perfectly align, what can you do? And I'm very proud of the process that we've developed that can at least help that stuff move forward and help get it as good as we possibly can.
Owen,
likewise, the back and forth process was very lovely with your team too. Thank you.
There's a lot of questions I would have, but Owen, are there questions from the room?
Yeah, we had a pair of questions, one from Arcane, one from Rob, asking what the capabilities are for using streaming musicals as a service outside, or using it as a production outside of the New York location, that studio specifically. RK asked if they could move it to a different theater, and I think Rob asked if it would be possible to contract you for someplace, I don't know, like Minnesota.
Yeah, we do it all the time, actually. We last summer we filmed The Lost Colony, which is the outdoor drama that's been running for 88 years and is the recipient of the Tony Honor for Excellence in the Theater. We filmed that at the end of last summer, and then we just premiered that last week on Streaming Musicals, and now it's going into Film Hub, and it's going to get, I think, a lot of wonderful interest because it's so beautifully directed, and the capture of it actually, the capture is actually, I think, more visually stunning than actually seeing the show live, because we were able to enhance. Tyler did an amazing job of enhancing the color on it, and there's an underwater sequence that on film is just stunning to watch, and you can check that out. That's at streammusicals.com. The Lost Colony. It's a fantastic piece. So yes, we have gone all over the United States. Tyler and his team have gone to California and Florida and North Carolina and New Jersey, and it's very easy for us to pick up and go wherever you need to go with.
Just for the room, we did an interview with, is it Jeff Whiting?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we did an interview with Jeff Whiting about the Lost Colony about 2.5, 3 years ago, and they actually had the interesting history of that show is not only has it been around for 88 years, but they're conscious enough that they actually revamped it and rethought it maybe 3 or 4 years ago to make it acceptable for a contemporary audience.
Yeah, one of the fascinating things Jeff did was reach out to the local indigenous community to try to smooth over all the cultural insensitivity that was in the piece. And
there was plenty.
Yeah, and there's a beautiful 6-minute interview piece, The Lost Colony Reimagined, which has these people that all worked on this reimagining of the show. And I mean, it's an extraordinary piece.
It's one of those pieces too. The stream, if you just get a chance to watch it, Tom and I, for the first time at the premiere, got to watch it from top to tail without notes going back and forth. And the piece itself, Tyler did such an amazing job editing it that I'm just sorry to say it's a non-union group of actors in Roanoke Island, and this piece looks and sound, it's so exciting. You look past any flaws in the acting because of the job that Tyler did editing it. Right, Tom? I mean, it's so good. And the sound is spectacular.
Yeah, sound is spectacular. I'm very excited to see how it's going to do in the world of when it goes out to probably 25 or so channels in Film Hub and Amazon Prime and all of these places, because I think it's a wonderful family-friendly piece about this Lost Colony in Roanoke, and it's a really excellent example of capturing a theater on film in an excellent way, and it's going to do so well for the piece.
So I also said that because I haven't had a chance to tell Tyler. It's so good, Tyler.
So just to put an underscore under a previous point, you can also do what América Tropical has done is they've created a reading. So I want you to understand that it's going to be very different watching a reading of a musical than it would be to watch The Lost Colony. And I want to encourage everybody to really support our writers and support the Streaming Musical and support TRU, and do consider watching us 3:00 on Sunday. It's the premiere showing of América Tropical. I'm very eager to see how different it will look and sound. Um,
I think you're going to be really pleasantly surprised
I'm
because
looking forward to it.
because to have the opportunity to do a reading like that, to live stream it is fantastic. To be able to go back, revisit it, and turn it into a property that everybody's really proud of in terms of how it conveys this wonderful story is just such a wonderful opportunity. And for the audiences to be able to experience this perfected reading basically, and the way the camera can help tell the story, but from the multi-camera approach is really fantastic. It's actually, in some senses, it's going to reach more people than just doing a reading in a studio in New York City where you have 40 seats. It's going to be seen by, hopefully hundreds and thousands of people, and maybe create opportunities for this play to live on in other theater spaces. And that's really the essence of why Stacia and I started Streaming Musicals. Was it's so hard to get anything produced. And if this can be a leg up for authors and for writers and for directors to see, to have their work be seen, and actors to have their work be seen, this is why we started it. And the various levels of production, whether it's the bare bones reading, or whether it's a 7-day rehearsed reading under SAG, or it's a full out production, all of the different things have so much value to bring toward helping these pieces get a life.
I just want to add to that because this show has won some other competitions and had, this is our fourth reading. We've had one table read and then 2 other stage readings, but this is the first one where it's been filmed. And so the opportunity here is so much bigger than we've had in the past to get more eyeballs that just can't come around. And that's what we're really excited about is to have a filmed staged reading that that can go out into the universe and other people see it that weren't in the room. So
I'd like to just wanted to add something if I could, a couple of different things. For those of you, everybody here joining us today, if it's a musical that you might that is your project and not a straight play, I'm the composer, but I was also the music director for this reading, and it was the typical reading in that we were slightly under rehearsed, of course, going into the day, and it was really wonderful where they had me as the accompanist and music director positioned. I was right in front of everybody, and it could, everyone could really easily see me. I wasn't way off to the side behind them, all the things that sometimes happen. So it was positioned really well for optimum success, for everybody to really hear me and read my conducting. I also wanted to mention that we have since edited a sizzle reel out of this, which is what we're going to be using kind of in a lot of our reaching out to theaters and so forth. And with the sizzle reel, we were close enough in tempos with all of our demos that we managed to, I mean, you guys at Milliron will get a kick out of this. We managed to actually put our demo tracks in there and we synced it up, which was amazing. And so it's actually here a band instead of just me on the keyboard accompanying that, the singing actors. So we have a pretty effective sizzle reel now.
That's wonderful. And your tempi must be very specific. You've got to be very good at your job to do that. That's amazing. And you certainly were. It was incredible. And in conjunction with that, anybody else that is interested in doing musical stuff, we do also have the ability to lay down MIDI tracks if you are doing live accompaniment, so that you would be able to go in and do at least virtual orchestrations, if not do go have your buddy lay down a clarinet track and drop it in. So there are lots of ways, and we're continuing to increase our mic cabinet. We're especially for products that are demo oriented. We've got some really exciting solutions coming up. But I started in musicals. They're my first love, and it was really wonderful to watch. It was really wonderful to watch you work.
Tyler,
Let
just
me.
a quick
I want to
technical
ask you. I want to ask you guys. Does anybody have to leave at 6:30? Because there are a couple more questions. You're okay. You're okay. Okay. You were going to say Jen.
I just want to ask the question, is it possible for the pianist to can you send them click tracks in their ear? Like, would that be a setup we could have done if I
Yes.
thought ahead? Okay.
Oh, I have to ask Owen. Owen, are you going to leave me at 6:30?
I am, yep.
So is there a way for you to find the questions for me so that I don't have to start digging?
I sent them already to you.
You sent them to me. All right.
Yeah, I think they're in the group chat.
All right.
There's something about a 29-hour reading construct. Yeah.
I'm not seeing them.
I'll resend them to you, Bob.
Yeah, there was a question about are these being done under AEA or what other union?
Yeah, that was one of the first things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
the difference between the AEA contracts and the SAG-AFTRA micro budget contracts.
Right. If you're doing an AEA staged reading, 29 hours, in order for it to be filmed, the producer or the writer has to get permission from Actors Equity to film it. You just have to go to them, tell them what you're doing it, why you want to film it, whether it's to share with a theater or whatever the case may be, and you have to get permission. We do filmed development under usually the SAG micro budget, which is capped. You can't really spend more than $20,000 generally on it. But that SAG micro budget allows you to film it, and then you just can't commercialize the use of the footage. You can put it anywhere, YouTube or Vimeo or whatever you want. You can show it to theaters. You just couldn't sell it to Netflix, for example. If you wanted to, if you got lightning in a bottle and you had like the most interesting and inventive staged filmed reading that you ever had, yes, you could sell it to Netflix. You just would have to go back to the union and say, okay, we want to upgrade this to an actual basic contract or whatever. You'd have to go back and pay all the actors what they would have gotten paid if it was under the appropriate SAG contract. Now, I can't imagine that a staged reading is going to end up on Netflix, but stranger things have happened.
Yep. And that is also like Film Hub. What about those permutations, Tom? There are for AVOD platforms.
There are an AVOD platform is okay. It just can't be anywhere where you're actually selling it to customers unless you get special permission from SAG to do so, which Bob has been able to do as a nonprofit.
Yeah. And to clarify for the group, AVOD means advertising video on demand. So if you're on YouTube and you get a little bumper ad on the front end where they're selling you Kleenex, that's advertising video on demand.
So everybody knows better than I do. Was that the last question? Because there was something
about the size.
I think we've been answering them as they come up.
Okay.
Tom, they're in the chat.
I spotted one as it came through about large casts being an issue here in the studio. And yes, absolutely. This is in Midtown Manhattan, and I'm not a rich person. So we do have a fairly sizable studio that is extremely functional and can do some pretty wild things. I've had, an 11-piece string orchestra in here. We've done all kinds of wild stuff. But one of the key components that we try to preserve for these theatrical readings is to be able to facilitate a live audience, which cuts into the space. And then, of course, when you have 8 cameras with tripods and a piano and all that sort of stuff, we cut into the space pretty deep.
Yeah. So one thing is going to take the place of another. It is possible to have, I think you said, as many as 20 people in an audience.
Yes, we can facilitate audiences up to 20. I would say, even though it feels a little intimidating, I would say that even a smaller audience can be just as effective. Really, like the way this is laid out right now, 15, I've currently got the space. I guess I could just show you. One of the layouts that we have here, this is our tech table back here. And then we've got like rows of seats that can continue past that. And this facilitates when those chairs turn around, we've got like 15 very comfortable chairs to kind of sit and punch this direction. Our layout for American Tropical was sort of like on an angle in order to cover all of those people in this arc. But
And
15 people who are really excited to be in a room on a live stream and are supporters of your theater can be just as powerful as 20.
I always find it interesting though, because we generally have a Video Village monitor which shows all the feed that's happening. And a lot of times people will be sitting in the audience and they'll just slowly gravitate over to watching the monitor instead of watching what's happening on the stage. Because what's happening on the monitor is so interesting. It's close-ups and it's the moving cameras and all these sliders and things. And so all of a sudden you have a bunch of people who are doing this, watching the monitor instead of watching the live performance.
Yeah, that is a recent adjustment that I made. I actually have a video feed more akin to like a traditional multicam television studio. We have a video feed just over the heads of the action now, so that you can at least pretend like you're watching the actors, or the live theater space. But I would say like readings of up to even just 8 people would be, in the way that the studio is currently configured, would be perfectly serviceable. 10 just kind of like got to the point, and the way that this, it also depends on how the piece is staged for this.
Well, let's start with América Tropical. It had 10 actors, so that already takes up space. That takes space right there. Then it had 3 writers. That takes up space. I wound up starting off by trying to sell people to come see it live at the studio. There was no real room for that. We had 6 people who were going to be on the panel, a set, and plus Jamila. So that was the real estate that we used for the talk back. To Michael Simon Hall, I might be coming in late to this conversation in the chat. There was an AEA provision for videotaping, but I didn't think for multiple cameras. Once we're dealing with AEA, we're not. I mean, with the multiple cameras, we're not dealing with AEA, are we?
Well, you can do AEA is being much more flexible in their use, in their definition of archival recordings. They do allow multicam live AEA recordings, because some of the recordings we made at Open Jar for Jeff Whiting were under the AEA staged reading contract, and they allowed multicam captures. I
didn't think there was any videotaping
for.
No, that's what I wanted to jump in and say. This does not refer to the 29-hour reading. There is no
video.
It
does. Yes, it does.
Who's that?
Bob, yeah, I was talking about the 29-hour reading.
I'm sorry.
That's news, because I've never heard of being able to videotape that.
No, you can. You can always get a provision as a producer to, you have to pay the actors a certain fee, the union actors, but you can videotape a 29-hour reading for archival purposes. And what he was just saying is they're allowing you to do now multicam, which is my question. I didn't realize they'd allow you to get that elaborate.
Yeah. I think also
on the 229-hour readings that we did before for América Tropical, we couldn't get them to budge. They would not allow any kind of recording of it at all. And
Michael, please trust us on this, because you're talking to a room full of people who are going to want to do videotaping of the readings, and it's really rare, if at all possible.
Yeah. Well, I've been.
I know that you've done it. I just want you to people to understand that it's not something that's normally done.
Well, there is a media fee that you pay to have the right to do it, and it may be it's related to SAG in some way, but it's still under the 29-hour reading.
Yeah, the union has been getting a little bit more flexible, only because they realize that video is running the world now in terms of how people absorb things. And it's a lot easier to get someone to watch your sizzle reel or an act of your musical than it is to get them to read something. It's very hard to get people to read anything anymore. But that's why we've been doing the SAG film development, because we don't have to deal with the equity permission. And because, like, what if you don't get it? Then you would want to go through the whole process of doing a 29-hour reading with the guise of wanting to record it and then being told, nope, we decided this week we're not allowing them to make recordings, which that's why we've been doing film development under the SAG micro.
Yeah.
I'm looking for any other questions. I think we're good. I think we've covered quite a bit of information today. So I want to thank my writers, Gina, Jan, and Joel, the jizz, the jizz. Thank you guys for America Tropical.
Thank
We were very happy
Thank-
to present it and have it part of our series. And I'm hoping that people will come join us. If not on Sunday at 3 o'clock, although I'd love you to come and join us Sunday at 3. Oh, Tom, a question to you. Are we going to be able to do any kind of chat on Sunday, or so that we are going to be able to interact with each other Sunday at 3 o'clock
Correct.
if we
Yeah,
do
there's a
this?
live chat that runs during the premiere that anybody can chime into, and please keep your comments clean.
Yeah, really. So guys, congratulations on this. And Tyler, Tom, and Stacia, I consider you dear friends because I know I can always depend on you to come and share information with us. And I'm very, very grateful. And Tom, you in particular, one of the most influential people who's ever been part of TRU, on my board. And as the chairman of the board, you've helped shape us and helped us grow. So thank you very much for all that you've done. I'm going to actually spotlight myself. Can I do that? Yeah. Okay. There I am. I'm spotlighted, and I'm going to actually be able to say goodbye to my YouTube viewers and anybody else out there who randomly found us on a podcast. I mean, people find us. I look. Sometimes I post these things on YouTube, and we've gotten as many as 16,000 views. So I assume there are going to be people out there that do not know us. If you liked what you saw today, or if you find it interesting, or if you just feel like it might be interesting to be part of a community, a theater community that gets together every Friday and talks about different aspects of theater, just email me at trunltd@aol.com. It's trunltd@aol.com, and we'll send you the Zoom link every week. Next week, I have James Rogers from Manhattan Musical Theater Lab, who's going to talk about what he's doing. It's a little different from other musical theater labs in terms of the development of new musicals. The week after that, I've got Barbara Pasternak coming from TheaterWorks USA. Most people will know what TheaterWorks USA is when I say it, but they're one of the most prominent purveyors of TYA, Theater for Young Audiences. And then after that, I've got Bob Cuccioli is going to come in and be interviewed. We've got all sorts of things planned for the future. So be part of us. If you want to come for free, you can come for free. Basically, I've always considered this a community service. However, we have bills. So if you ever want to give us a little donation or something, or if you want to actually pay for a ticket to come see us, we charge as little as $10. You can come and support us with a donation, or you can come for free if you need to. If you want to make a donation now, go to TruDonate, trudonate.com. That's trudonate.com. Give us whatever you can afford, whatever's in your heart. We'd appreciate it. Love doing this. Love the fact that I've discovered a global audience for TRU, company that I thought was going to be always going to be a little New York-based company. Love having people come into the room every week, and I'm so grateful to the community for being here and supporting us. Look forward to seeing you in the weeks to come.